Analytics for Deloitte Consulting India. Before that, Deloitte Consulting India. He was also, especially in the Deloitte, he was in the strategy and operational advisory practices. He also carries significant business consulting experience from Ernst & Young, Arthur Andersen. Dr. Mudit has been visiting faculty at IIM Lucknow and also IIM resident faculty of strategy at IIM Kashipur. He was founding chairperson of the Center of Excellence for Competitiveness at IIM Kashipur. He represented IIM Kashipur at UNCTAD Intergovernmental Meet of Competition Regulator at UN Headquarters Geneva in 2014. He has received education at NIT Allahabad, IIT Delhi, IGIDR Mumbai, and executive education in case-based teaching methods at Harvard Business School. We are very fortunate and welcome Dr. Mudit Kulshreshtha. He has a very wide experience, as you can see that, and he has worked with many world-renowned consulting firms, and he was with the teaching profession also. So he is the best. And as in the today I have mentioned, the basic pillar for implementing digitalization is data and analytics. And today we are going to speak on data and analytics. So welcome, Dr. Mudit Kulshreshtha. Mic is hand over to you. Before that, I really request every one of you, please mute your mic. The children voice is there. Madam, please mute your mic. Yeah. Welcome, Dr. Mudit Kulshreshtha. Please, mic is handed over to you now.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Trappi. Welcome, everyone. I hope my voice is clear. This is a very large audience. So before I begin the session, let's just put some communication protocols in place so that we can have seamless experience. I might just like to also warn you beforehand that I'm taking this from home. It is possible, though, that internet connectivity might get off for a little while. So don't get worried. I'll be back in 2 or 3 minutes. There is power backup in the building, but just be prepared for that eventuality. So the communication protocol is that please make sure that your mic is muted always. But I do want to make the session interactive. So I would request you to actually, when I ask questions, please don't unmute your mic, but put your questions in chat. The reason why we are doing it so, because the number of audience is 150 plus. And if everybody starts speaking at the same time, then it may not be possible for all of us to hear everybody else out. So I would request that you put your questions in chat. If there are a large number of responses, I might summarize them. Otherwise, I'll take just 1 or 2 questions. So with those communication protocol in place, let's begin. And it's a privilege to be a part of this session. And yeah, so let me just begin with the context of business analytics. The session objectives, before I do that, let me lay out the session objectives. So I was thinking about what to cover. And, one of the things that I thought could be potentially useful, just hold on. Yeah. So I was thinking as to how to structure this session for you. Analytics is a very overloaded word. It means different things to different people. And there are, variety of professionals who actually work in this area. Some of you are computer scientists. Some of you might be, engineers. Some of you might be consultants. Some of you might be, working in government services. So different people are on different learning curves as far as this exciting field is concerned. And I think there will be hardly anybody who would actually disagree with the fact that the world that we are living in, and this may even sound cliched because it's spoken about so much, that, analytics, artificial intelligence is basically going to change everything around the world as we see it. And with this COVID thing, a lot of things about the digital age might actually get accelerated. So we will see robotics age. There was no doubt that they would eventually come. in the IoT age coming much faster. Everything will be accelerated in next few years. So this is a fabulous opportunity, for us as a country also to take the leadership and to in this important area, because I think we have got the brain power to do that. What I had planned to cover in this session was, 10 to 15 minutes. I wanted to give you a sense of how analytics problems of the world are actually come in an unstructured format. So analytics could mean techniques. It could mean the usage of problem solving skills. It could sometimes mean application of a particular method. But overall, when you look at analytics as a complete field, we are using analytics to solve society's problems, society and business problems. And of course, there is an engineering dimension to that as well, because most of the societies and business problems can be solved better if we make use of science and engineering to solve the most complex problems of our society, to bring welfare and to boost consumption in our economy, which then provides for the well-being of the individual citizens. So look at analytics from that particular context. It's about solving societies and business problems. And when people ask for solutions, when businesses ask for solutions in analytics, it is not about applying a particular technique, let's say a regression or other things that you might have heard of, because the problem itself will be complex. You will see that it's not just a matter of science or maths, it's also a matter of art, just like everything else is. Some might say that there is a science to cooking, but there is also art to cooking. Some might say there is a science to music, but there is art to music. Some might say that there is a science to filmmaking. So also there is art to cinema making. So everything is basically related to the science and the arts components of analytics. So we'll try to see from a very practical perspective as to how the big problems of analytics are unstructured in nature. That's the first thing that we will discuss. And after that, I want you to, take you through the variety of language that is getting used today. So engineers understand analytics from a very different perspective than, some of the other professions. So you must have heard of the words like data engineering. You could have heard of the words like data scientists. Then you could have heard of, machine learning. Then you could have heard of AI specialist. And then, some people will also speak about cloud and big data. So there is a whole lot of taxonomy, the lingo, the language, which is to be understood. And, there are dangers because people have understood it from a different perspective. So this field is now growing at a very brisk pace, by econometricians, statisticians, technologists, engineers, and everybody is bringing the foundational knowledge from different subjects to this exciting field. And that is what is defining it to be so we'll discuss those things in brief. I would also like to tell you that the world of data now comprises of structured and unstructured data. We will talk about what unstructured data is. So data today, as we speak, is not the same as what we used to treat data before. So in our generation, I am 50 years old. In our generation, data used to be a table of data with certain rows and columns. But these days, the videos is also data. Images, also data. Speech is data. Practically everything that you click on the web is also data. It is called as the clickstream data. So this unstructured data is what is making the world of analytics extremely interesting. You would quickly realize on this slide, a lot of things are you might be familiar with. The scale is unprecedented, so I'm not going to dwell too much on this slide. You can have a look at this slide at a later stage. But one interesting thing I might like to point out is that 90% of the world's data, as it stands today, was collected in just last 2 years. And the reason why it is growing at a brisk pace is because of the unstructured nature of it. The images, the photos, the videos, the satellite imagery, the connected cars, for example. A connected car of Tesla, it is told that it generates around 1 terabyte of data per day. So you can imagine the volume, the veracity, the 3 V's that we talk about of the data. Now that brings in the application of different sort of platforms. a different set of technologies to this exciting field. So analytics today is very different from what it was just even 5 years back. And this field rapidly changes every few months. And I have myself seen that after the inception of this virus itself, things have changed so much within a month. If you look at platforms, analytical platforms. Okay, so that is our overall objective. We want to understand a little bit around platforms as well. We'll spend this session also on in terms of talking about techniques which are there, and there are many. So there is a classification technique, regression techniques, there are association analysis, there are machine learning methods. Now, 90 minutes is too short a session for me to cover everything, but and we are not going to micro details. But the idea is that you get an overall point of view of what these methods landscape is, and this is summarized in my slide at a later stage, which we'll talk about. So there are many methods. As you will see, and these are not the only methods. Because of the paucity of space on the slide, I was able to incorporate only a small. But can I request everybody to mute their mics, please? Hello, please mute your mics.
Mr. Narayan Prasad Gupta, please mute your mic. Narayan Prasad Gupta, please mute your mic.
All right, thank you.
Sorry?
Professor, can I request you to put this in a chat box so that the conversation might go on, otherwise we'll be
okay.
And I request once again for the audience not to respond or in audio. Please do it on chat because disrupts my flow as well. Okay. I'm sorry, but because this is a 150 people class, we have to adhere to protocols so that the experience is okay for everyone. All right. So, guys, please mute your mics. I request once again, please mute your mics off. It is important. Otherwise, please log out. The recording will be available of this session. Okay. All right. So with that, so we'll cover some of these techniques, and we'll discuss that in whatever the time permits, so that you get a broad overview, and then of course we will just hold on. Yeah. And then we will also talk about, if there is time, you will realize that most of the methods of analytics are not perfect measures. So there are errors. So analytics does not prepare, as is sometimes commonly conceived, to give 100% predictive accuracy. Now this might sound strange to you, but a forecast which is too perfect is actually a problematic forecast, and we will talk about it. If I am to ask you the fun question, who do you think is the world's best forecaster? Who do you think is the world's best forecaster? What do you think the answer should be? You can put your answers in chat. Take your time, put your answers in chat. Let me ask you, who do you think is the best forecaster in the world? And this is a trick question, let me tell you that. So a lot of people actually say it's Warren Buffett. Some people say, other data scientists. As per me, it's actually Paul the Octopus, if you have. And this was the octopus in FIFA who actually forecasted almost all the outcomes of a football match with a better accuracy than all the algorithms put together. He was correct, I think, in 12 matches, he was correct in 11 matches. So sometimes having an algorithm or a model does not mean that you've got the right model. As world has repeatedly shown, forecasts have gone wrong. When 2008 crisis happened in the US, there were very few people who actually predicted it. Despite all the computational power, the extensive availability of the data, the methodologies, the Harvards, Harvard people, MIT people, they were not able to see the recession forthcoming. So a lot of things will happen, the world has still not found the full way to predict the randomness around it. So this aspect is important to keep in mind. The other aspect to keep in mind as we begin this session is that statistical truths are not absolute truths, are not absolute full truths. And, we don't realize that. So let me take up on one example. So suppose I say that African on an average are taller than Indians. Now, this is a statistical truth. We know that Africans are taller. But do you think you won't be able to find one Indian who's like the tallest? Obviously, you'll be able to find. Okay. And we will always be able to find one midget in African who is shorter than the average, or the maximum shorter than the Indian as well. So there will be exception on both sides. There are errors on both sides. So statistical truths are not the absolute truths. They are absolute truth, but they will be true statistically speaking, which means a majority. Now you can define what is the majority to the extent of 95%, or we can say 90%, but there is a judgment involved over there. So keep this aspect in mind. Number one, even the best forecasters will make mistake. Even the best models will sometimes not perform to accuracy if things changes. So there is a rapid requirement of updating those models. And statistical truths are absolutely not the full truth. So with that, we begin. And let me define the analytics space first. So we define business analytics in terms of ability to use data. And remember that I told you already in this session that the data is not the same as it used to be earlier. Okay, data is. I'm sorry, I'm receiving something from admin. My video is not on. Hello.
Video is not on, Mudit.
Oh, you should have told me earlier.
I thought that you are intentionally.
I was all over the emotion, so I typed these questions, by the way, which you are seeing. Who do you think is the best podcaster? So just remember that I'm sorry, guys. This is the first time for many of us who are experiencing this online education. I was under the impression that you guys are able to see my screen. So I was throughout showing you this screen. I actually did this. So just to you can read this right on the screen. So this is the session outline. We'll go through the analytics landscape. You should have told me earlier, Dr. Ma'am. Anyways, so types of error, cognition, and this was the question that I asked you because sometimes voice may not be audible. But anyways, we have got through that. So just to emphasize, remember that statistical truths are not the absolute truths; they are statistical truths. So you will always find exceptions. So if you look at press media or news media, you will find newspapers sometimes they catch the experience of one person, and then they statistically generalize it. That is absolutely incorrect. Experience of one person may not be generalized to be a statistical truth. And similarly, existence of one person who might have experienced otherwise does not mean that's the truth. So we need to be aware as analytics and quantitative people that is indeed the case. Is the video visible now? Hello? Is the video visible?
It is.
Okay. All right. So let me proceed. So analytics broadly is defined as, and this is a very simplistic definition because, broad use of data in quantitative problems for decision making within the organizations. This was Thorne H. Davenport, who is from Harvard. He gave this definition. There was a book which actually became a cult book, quite famous, but, analytics field has made rapid progresses. So the scope of analytics, this is incorrect, is not related only to organization. Organization is one entity. Today, we interpret it in the broader context that business analytics, AI, they can solve society's most complex problems using data, using the quantitative methods, using the computing horsepower to solve the problems of humanity. We will see the age of robots in some time. There could be a debate when it will come, but we will definitely see that. All right, so that is how we define it. I'm going to skip this slide because you might have seen this. This will be made available to you. Let me come directly to the case study that I wanted to cover, so that you get the insight as to how unstructured the problem is. So the first thing that we are going to learn is what is actually the overall project life. How do you actually think about analytics project? So let me take you through a case study. It's here in my web. Just read this. So all of you would have heard of Future Group, right? So Future Group is basically controlled by Mr. Kishore Bayani. And Future Group has all these brands, Brick Bazaar, Pantaloon. Pantaloon actually now is not the brand of Future Group. It has been sold to Aditya Birla. There is Central, there is Brand Factory, there is eZone, right? And he wanted to actually formulate a problem, and this is an analytics problem. How to use analytics for business. He wanted to have the target of 1 lakh crore revenue by 2021. And this is from Economic Times newspaper. You can just Google Kishore Bayani, you will get this article. Okay, so I'll wait for around 3 minutes for you to go through this article. And one of the ways to go through this article is go to Google, type Bayani 1 lakh crore, 1 lakh crore, and you will be able to get the first article, which is this Economic Times. You may, and those who do not have a device, you can read it here. I'm also going to read it with you. So he wanted to achieve this 1 lakh crore revenue target, okay, by a certain year, which is 2021. This year is of 2017 when he actually did this, and he wanted 1 lakh rupees from 1 crore customers by 2021. My question to you is, being all of us engineers and businesses, if somebody gives you a work like this, how do you actually think about doing it? What data will you collect? What sort of analysis will you apply? How will you make it actionable? Those are all the questions that we have. Okay, so this strategy was called as 1 by 1. So Bayani's target was that capture 1 crore customers by this year and try to sell them food, clothes, shirts, everything, cosmetics, electronics, and collect this much spend. Now, this type of business planning is very important. So, how do you plan to think about it? And the point that I want to show is once you think about this problem, you will be able to realize that application of analytics has to be thought of from a holistic perspective. So read it for a minute. This article is there on the screen, and then we will discuss how to solve this. And this will also allow us a window of discussing the other things in this particular session, because I'll tell you how different methodologies that we are going to discuss later in the session can be applied in this particular example. All right. So I'll allow for a minute. Oh, sorry, you should be seeing the screen. And by the way, similar problems will arise in IoT. The first thing that will help in IoT is that if a business wants to be enabled, or if a government wants to be enabled certain citizen services by IoT, right? How will it evaluate this opportunity in terms of costs and benefits? Businesses, everything has to be budgeted for, and there has to be a return. Okay. Government sometimes does not look for returns in the same way as businesses do, but ultimately has to be looked from cost and benefits perspective. So Future Retail brand is all Big Bazaar. There is Central. There is Food Bazaar. There is Fashion at Big Bazaar. There is Brand Factory. All right, so let's discuss this, and I'm pretty sure that you would already be getting some of the idea. Is my audio? Am Am I audible?
Yes, you are now.
Actually, I was speaking the whole time.
No issue. Whenever there is no voice, we will just interrupt you. So carry on.
Please do. And video also is visible.
Yes, video is also visible now.
So now that you have read it, let's think about this problem, how to solve it. And, so the first thing that has to be defined is, I'm trying to bring my Excel up. Just hold on, I'm trying to minimize my windows and trying to bring the Excel up. So this is my, so the first thing in analytics problem is actually to define the overall problem in quantitative terms. Remember, in analytics, we have to address things quantitatively. So quantitatively, what is the problem here? Quantitatively, the problem is that the revenue target is 1 lakh crore by a certain year. So now we have defined the problem of revenue, overall problems in terms of overall goal. Now, the trick in analytics is to think top down and not really bottoms up. So whenever such an assignment comes, people have a tendency to think, oh, let's apply some, funky technique, okay, like a regression or something to solve this problem. But this problem is much more. So if you think about component, the revenue is going to come from customers. And every customer will give you revenue per visit, some revenue per visit. Every time you visit Big Bazaar. So now instead of 1, we have 2. If just hold on a second, I need to do something. So this component, the customer. New customer. I can say existing customer. And possibly there is a third component. Can you tell me what the third component is in your chat box? Give me some input. So I'm now thinking what types of customers are there. So obviously there has to be new customers. And then there will be existing customers. But there is a third component as well. Can you tell me what third type of customer will be? You get an invisible chocolate, if you can answer that question. Put your response in the chat box. Okay, so I have not got any response so far. Are you guys there or? So we call them lapsers or dormant customers. So what happens in a business is that new customers come in, but some of the existing customers, precisely. So we've got the response from Ravi Kiran, who gets my invisible chocolate. So let's have a clap for Ravi Kiran. So lapsers is so customers who have left is absolutely the answer. So now we have got the another analytics lever that we get new customer needs to increase, existing customer needs to be not increased, but they have to be kept the same, which means that they don't have to go down. And lapsers obviously have to be reduced, which means this thing has to come down. If this thing comes down, then only we will be able to get this increase in customers, and then we will be able to fulfill the target. Okay. Now, how do you get the new customers and where will you get it from? Again, you will see that there is an answer to that. And we are planning the analytical life cycle. Remember, this began as an unstructured, undefined analytics problem. So now we are seeing that new customers can come from same city, more stores, opening more stores in the same city, or a different city, new stores where Big Bazaar is not present. Let's say Big Bazaar can open up in a town in Uttarakhand where it's not present, and it will give you some business, different cities. So new customers can come from within city, more stores. So for example, if I have a store, so we generally see in retail that person will not travel from Noida to Gurgaon if there is a Big Bazaar only in Gurgaon. If you're familiar with the NCR area, right? So we need to have new stores in the same city and new stores in the different city. Now this will call you which cities. So the analytical question here will be cities should have new stores. So now we can define an analysis that we need to do an analysis of identifying cities where potentially a new store can be opened and can be profitable as well. Because one of the mistakes, and I would call it an analytical mistake that happens in the retail, is that people open up stores where there is actually no business. The population is far off, the store keeps the inventory for too long, and then they close down after making losses. Okay, so there is a lot of analytics which goes on to figure out which locations are actually profitable. And the locations which are profitable are generally which have a high density of customers. So you need to collect all that data. Can somebody tell me, if you are not to have that data, how will you analyze this problem? And that will bring a very exciting point about analytics. Suppose, let's say I am to decide where all to open up stores in, let's say, MP. Where will I open stores in MP? How will I decide that? So one of the things that you can think of is that you can collect the data on cars. If the number of cars, because cars is a measure of proxy measure of income in that city. If the number of cars are more in that particular city, that's probably a good city to look for, because they will have those consumers will have the spending power to make the store profitable. If the number of cars or two-wheelers are less, that city is actually either not attractive, or maybe I should open up a small store there and maybe a larger store there. So then the question will become, what size of a store? A large store? Medium store? So we are breaking up the problem. Okay. So you see how and then, suppose lapsers. Now, sometimes when people structure I told you that analytics is just not science. It is actually art also. How will you decide who has lapsed in the business? Let me ask you this question, and please put up in the chat to get another of my invisible chocolate reward. How do you decide who a lapser is? So suppose a customer does not come to Big Bazaar for, let's say, 30 days. Will you call him a lapser? Or will you call it 60 days if he doesn't come? Or 90 days? How will you decide that? And do you think this amount will be same for all the formats? So suppose Big Bazaar also has hometown by the way. Now hometown people buy furniture for 5 days. So the point that I'm trying to make is, with the same analytical indicator, the definition and the analysis that you will do will vary depending upon the domain and the industry and the business context. The definitions will be different. Okay. The definition for a lapser in a banking industry will be different from that in a healthcare industry, will be different from that in some other industry. Okay. Now let's analyze the other component. Now revenue is, as I told you, the trick is to think top down, not bottoms up, top down. That's what good thinking is. And we are breaking down into quantitative components. How will you maximize this revenue per customer? For revenue per customer, revenue per visit needs to go up, which means that number of visits. So visits should go up, or frequency should go up. So the number of times a customer is visiting my store should actually go up. And how will I decide? And not just every visit should go up, but every time he visits, he should actually pay me more amount of money. So here I had revenue per customer. Now I am going to define as revenue per visit for customer. Revenue per visit per customer. So customer should not only visit me more, he should also pay me more. And how do I do that? So now the question is also if you can quantify this quantitatively. So for example, how do you control for lapsers? So one of the important thing is you must have seen those coupons from Domino's Pizza. Right? Now, Domino's Pizza, when actually if you buy, they will give you a free offer on your next purchase. Not a free offer, they will give you 30%, 40% discount. Okay. On your next purchase. So that way lapsers come down and they will put up a date of, let's say, if you bought it today, they will say, buy your next pizza within 40 days and claim your 30% discount. So by devising these analytical quantitative rules, a business might be able to control the consumer behavior, which of course is the idea is to solve the problems, right? How do you increase the frequency of a particular customer? So maybe you can say on your third visit, we'll pay you something, some discount you can claim. Okay, so that's one way. So email campaigns, digital campaigns can be planned to do that. Right? Sometimes a coupon book can be given to you. That every month you can redeem one coupon. So that will increase the visit. Or people can say, let's have Sabse Sasta Din, if you have heard of Sabse Sasta Din. That's like one day you get you get free. So how do you design that? And similarly, we need to increase the revenue per customer also. So all sorts of analytics that you can think about, customer engagement. Okay. So this thing is about customer acquisition. This thing is about customer engagement actually kicks in. And obviously, it will now be very easy for you to imagine what sort of techniques you will apply here. So here you will do an analysis which is called as recency frequency monitoring. It's a very famous analysis. It's called as RFM analysis, recency, frequency, and monitoring. Frequency and are you guys able to see my screen that I'm typing? Just confirming. Just please type in the chat box if somebody can confirm that. So RFM analysis is one of the most famous analytic projects that we do. Yeah. Thank you. So we say a customer, most valuable customer is a customer who has visited you recently, who has visited you frequently, and who has given you the highest amount of monetary. This is not monetary, this is in terms of money. Who has given you the highest money. So most recent, most frequent, and you can do a whole lot of data mining on the data. We used to do this data analytics of 31 to 40 million customers who would actually visit Big Bazaar. So if you are in Bhopal or any other city, and if you bought something in Big Bazaar, I would come to know of that, how many items you bought, how many times you have bought it. I would know everything in like 24 hours. And then we would, and what was your bill amount? What was your bill amount? So the people who pay, so those are most loyal customers. And companies need to identify those loyal customers to reward them, to prepare schemes. So when you have Big Billion Day, companies plan, it's not without the measure that companies do plan that how to provide Now let me ask you a trick question. Do you think loyal customers should be rewarded? Do you think loyal customers should be rewarded? A lot of people give the answer yes, but actually the analytical answer is no. You do not reward loyal customer. That customer is coming to you anyways. You actually reward your new customers. So you can try this trick, by the way. You can, if you are Make My Trip customer, try to log in as a frequent customer and try to log in as a new customer. I can bet that you will get more discount as a new customer rather than as a loyal customer. Because you are coming to me anyways. You are already loyal. Why would I provide you? So there are a lot of counter-intuitive things in analytics that you would come across. And analysis actually reveals all those secrets. Now, one of the interesting things that we did for this particular project for Mr. Biani was we actually also, in analytics, you ask questions after questions. You ask, how do we increase the frequency? So one of the increasing frequency is that, I don't know if people from West Bengal are there on this thing. Now, people who are from West Bengal, you will be surprised to know, actually, you may not be surprised, that during Pujo, the 70% of the business actually happens during Pujo season. Which means what from an analytics perspective? From an analytic perspective, it means that if I can identify Bengalis within my customer base, then I can do an email marketing rather than to all customers, only to Bengalis during Pujo season. Only to Bengalis. I have a highly likelihood of converting those customers to buy my discount schemes or attract them to my shops. Rather than mass marketing and sending emails which cost me a lot, I can just send. But how do you identify Bengalis within the customers? So maybe surnames is one type of analysis you can do, though it is not always indicated because there will be problems like Sinha. Sinhas could be UP and they can belong to Bengalis, but you are getting the idea, right? The entire point of this exercise is to take your thinking hat that you can do a variety of analysis in this if you think about it. Okay, so similarly, we identified Punjabis because they tend to buy during Lori season. If you are from North India, identifying customers who will buy certain categories during Dhanteras was another idea, right? So by doing all of this analytics, you can make it relevant. So do not think of analytics as like an academic exercise where you have to apply certain methods. When you solve most complex problems of the societies and businesses, it requires considerable thought. It requires breaking it down. And this brings me to the cycle of analytics. So if you see what we have gone through, analytics projects have a cycle. You have to identify the problem first, which is the first step. The first problem in analytics is, so this is a 5 steps process for analytics problem. Identify the problem. Now, this might sound very cliched and a very ordinary statement to you, but you'd be surprised how many people actually are not able to identify. When you see people from McKinsey, Deloitte, Big Four firms actually charging a lot of money, this is what they charge for. They actually identify the problem. So problem identification in this case was revenue maximization by a certain year. Then you formulate the hypothesis, whether I am going to earn more revenue by opening up a store in the same city or whether I am going to make more money if you open up in a certain other city in a certain other region. What type of a customer base is there? How can I do males give me more? Do males respond more to coupon campaigns or do females respond to coupons? Okay. Does Dr. Tripta Thakur, does she access email on a Friday night or does she access email frequently on the first 2 days of the week? If I can know these things, and remember we are talking about 31 million customers, so none of this is actually standalone. This intelligence is built in the platform. So there are 5 steps to analytical problem. Identify the problem, break it down, hypothesis formulation, then you gather the data. You'll find surprisingly a lot of people start collecting the data and waste a lot of time before defining the problem itself. And that is a big mistake because if you collect the data, then you will be collecting the data for a lot of time. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of PhDs will be able to identify that because sometimes we end up collecting the data without actually having a clear idea of what to do with that. And, a lot of time in people who actually do PhDs actually sometimes goes to waste before that. And then you have to identify the typical analysis that you're going to apply. And remember, this is not a sequential step. Sometimes you may find that data is not available. So then you have to go back and revisit the hypothesis formulation stage itself. Now, there is one counterintuitive notion within this. A lot of people say that analytics is the difficult thing. Let me tell you and share with you from my consulting experience, analytics is actually very easy, contrary to the popular opinion. Because these days, the softwares are so easy to use. You can click some buttons. If you are using a platform like IBM Watson will give you human instruction also. It will interpret the result for you. So in human language. So people can very quickly apply analytics. The problem is actually the harder part is actually defining the problem, thinking about the proper hypothesis, making sure data is accurate. Analytics, very, very easy. And what do you think consumes the most time in an analytics project? Can somebody name it? Put it in the chat box. Which steps do you think will consume most time in the analytics project? Nobody is answering my chat, so I'm not sure whether you guys. Oh, I got one response. So somebody is saying first step, problem identification. Somebody is saying pre-processing. Somebody is saying hypothesis. All of you are right. Actually, these three steps are the most time consuming. Sometimes data gathering is like 90% of your project time. Your 90% of your time will go just in data collection and formulating the problem. 10% of your time will actually go in analytics. Of course, analytics is like, those final touches of, this is the same thing as in a house. A house, a basic structure is built in a very short time. But when you start furnishing the house and preparing the final touches, that actually takes, a lot of months. In housing, it's the opposite, right? It's the initial steps which are less time consuming. So that step is actually similar to data analysis. So data analysis takes less time. Data collection, problem identification, hypothesis formulation, selecting the correct techniques takes a lot of time. And don't forget that element when you are doing projects for corporates or consulting or for your academic purposes or even for engineering purposes or anything like that. Okay. So with this, we are going to take a pause of around half a minute so that our brains can rest for a while. But let me just recuperate a couple of ideas that we have covered. First, we have laid out that analytical problems are not in real life, of course, are not structured. Okay. So let me go to a new sheet and summarize what we have learned so far. Analytical problems are not structured. Are not fully structured. Okay. There is an element of science as well as art to it. It will require a lot of time will go up. Always think top down. Always think top down. Problem identification is the most important part. Your other strategies have to sync with it. So preparing a framework for analysis is most important. Preparing a framework for analysis is most important. Pardon the spellings. I'm not correcting it because it will waste my time. So these are the three lessons that we learned. And now let me go. So with these three lessons, now this methodology actually goes by several names. So there are acronym. One acronym is called define, collect the data. So different people, different organizations, they define, different consulting firms have defined these words. So you find these words. So define, collect the data, organize the data, visualize the data, and analyze the data. So DCOA. Some people also call it, if you have heard of this goes by sample the data, explore the data, modify the data or model the data, model and analyze. Those people who have done quality engineering or in industrial engineering, you must have heard of the term called Six Sigma, which follows a methodology of DMAIC. DMAIC. This is called as define, measure, analyze, improve, and control, which is in a different strategy. So this is used for Six Sigma, those who are familiar of Green Belt, and the General Electric made an art of this particular methodology. So these are different things analytics cycle, and it's important that you keep this cycle. And the basic idea is to prepare a framework like this. Idea. Now let's come back to the different types of methodologies and the frameworks. But before I do that, let me tell you, and this is important, the 4 basic questions that the data sciences fields. These can be summarized in 5 questions of data sciences. Important for you to remember. The first question that we ask is this A or B? And I'll come to in a minute what is that. The second question that we ask is this weird? The third question that we ask is who, how much, or what? Fourth question is how do we organize? And I'll tell you in a minute. Let's discuss these four questions first. And the second thing is how do we recommend? Okay, now let's discuss this one by one. Is this A or B? What it means is this is what is called as a classification problem. Classification problem of analytics. And one of the example will be, suppose I prepare an image recognition algorithm. So you see these days computer can be shown images. I can show them images of oranges and lemons, and they will be able to tell you whether the image is that of an orange or whether it is that of a lemon. Okay. Classification problem is also a problem of who is going to default on a loan. Okay. So this problem is called as delinquency modeling. Delinquency modeling in who is likely to default. So yes or no. Who is likely to die of cancer? Yes or no. Okay. So these are all classification problems where you are asking whether the object is or whether the model is who is likely to respond to an email campaign. Likely to respond. Okay. Now, is this weird is called as anomaly detection. Okay. So very frequently you will notice that there are always outliers in the data. Okay. So let me take up one example. If I am to take, let's say, the data of forecasting, let's say GDP growth in the country, or let's say Big Bazaar sale itself, right? Now a big billion day sale will be an outlier. If I averaged, I have to ignore that point. I have to consider that a special point in the data. It has happened because a certain event happened. Currently, because of COVID, a lot of our numbers will go haywire in every area. We cannot use the same numbers to actually model when the situation eventually will become normal. So in this weird, we ask anomaly detection. The entire analytics around fraud, which by the way will be a very distinct possibility in devices, will also emerge. So it has a special relevance to IoT. So that is the second question. So we do outlier analysis. Does this look normal is what we ask. Okay. And what is the likelihood of that in terms of probability? How much of what is basically predictive analytics? We are asking how much would be my sales next month given certain variables. How many items how many cold drinks will I be able to sell? So currently Maruti will be preparing, Maruti and Mahindra and Tata Motors, they will all be preparing projections around how much cars will be able to sell in the COVID scenario, how much or what, and which models, if at all, will sell, whether it's my Alto that will sell or whether it's my, the higher end cars that will sell more. Okay. How do we organize the data is basically the analysis of grouping observations and finding associations between those. Somebody is asking some questions on chat. I'll take that later on because I have a lot to cover. So please don't mind. I know you have put some questions. We'll answer that later. So this is called as, one example of how do we organize and grouping association will be market basket analysis, for example. And who do you recommend is one example. Similarly, will be recommendation engine of Netflix or YouTube. So anybody who has used YouTube, Netflix would know that if you watch certain content, YouTube is able to suggest, and Netflix is able to suggest what other movies you are likely to like. So music companies like Spotify, Gaana.com, Apple Music, iTunes, they all use analytical algorithms to provide recommendations on what you are likely to like. And by the way, they are fairly accurate about that. Okay. Based on what you have liked and what other people similar to you have liked. So there are a lot of analytical techniques within those. So recommendation engine is actually one of the accelerating analytical techniques that people have used. So these are the 5 questions that we ask in analytics. Is this A or B, which is a classification problem? Is this weird, which is an anomaly detection problem? How much or what? It's the regression problem. The word that is used is regression. And regression itself is of many types. We'll come to that. How do we organize the data? How do we group the observations? How do we group the customers? One example of organizing the data will be customer segmentation or grouping of customers. So if you have heard of words like Generation X or Generation Z, the millennials, because they have very different consumer behavior patterns than compared to other groups. And what do you recommend? So these are the 5 questions that you guys need to keep in mind. Okay. Now let me come to another technique of I've explained. Let me explain you a couple of other things. What is this? Let's discuss what is the type of data that we have. So obviously we have the structured data. And let me tell you what a structured data is. The structured data looks something like this. You see on your computer, structured data is like this. It has a well-defined table. There are rows and then there are columns in which certain field is captured. In this particular case, there is a store, there is a sales, there is a price. Let's assume there is one good, so there is only one price. Obviously, the price will be different for different goods. And some promotion. Promotion means discount. We can interpret it like that. Okay, currently. This is a very simple data. Okay. Now, this is called as a structured data. A structured data is in a table. It has rows and it has columns. Now let's get certain taxonomy out of that. Okay. So rows are also called as records. Now, why this nomenclature is important for you to understand is that different people from different fields will sometimes use different terminology. So people get confused a lot as to what do they mean. They actually mean the same thing. Whenever anybody says record or a rows, they mean exactly the same thing. It is also called as cases. If you talk to a computer science guy, he will actually not call row a row. He will not call record a record. He will actually call it cases. So every line is basically one case. Okay, every line is one case. Now columns also come with different names, by the way. Columns are also called as fields. They are also called as variables. So whenever somebody is explaining, please do not get confused. Now data is contained in table. But businesses sometimes don't deal with one tables. This is a very simplistic analysis. When there were no computers, we used to do analytics like this. Today, if you look at customer relationship data marts, people talk about data warehouses. Okay? So don't get confused. Data warehouses is nothing but a collection of tables. Or rather, let me say a collection of related tables. Okay, and one example will be that there will be a customer table, there will be an orders table in a separate thing. This will contain only details about customer like addresses, name, etc. Orders table will contain detail about order table and they will be joined by a customer ID. So these tables will be joined. So that's why we sometimes call it RDBMS tables, Relational Database Management Systems. Okay. So this is the structured data where there are data warehouses which contain many tables. Many tables have many rows and many columns. The real life will have millions of records and hundreds of variables in organization. So data warehouses consist of multiple tables. So this is a structured data. Unstructured data is different. Unstructured data is images, video, audio, which can be recorded, click-stream data. Click-stream data is what you click on the web. You know, these days it can be monitored where on your screen you have clicked. And companies use that information to find out what really interests you on a website and use it for, search engine optimization, the SEO techniques and all. So this is called as the unstructured data. Unstructured data is very large in volumes, and there are different technologies that are used for that. So while SQL is quite popular here as the databases and data querying language, here the technologies are completely different. So you would hear of a word called as data lakes. Now, we are not, this is only a 90-minute session, so we are not going into a lot of details. But data lakes is like fluid streaming data. So, for example, in IoT field, what you are likely to encounter is data lakes and not simply the structured sort of. Why it is important for you to know is the form of the data sometimes dictates what type of analysis you will apply, what sort of techniques you will use, or what sort of intervening platforms you will prepare for cleaning up this data and making it rendering for analysis. As we already saw, data preparation phase itself consumes like 50 to 60% of your time in any analytics project. Analytics is easy, data preparation is really hard, and that's where a bulk of time actually goes off. Okay, so with this we have covered the idea on structured versus unstructured data, and it's stored also in a very different forms, by the way. So we are not going into that, but now in terms of objectives, this is what I have covered. Now let me come to the types of analysis. The first type of analysis we do is basically univariate data. Univariate means a single variable. Let's say I'm considering analysis only on income of a customer, and I divide them into 4 groups. Or only on age of a customer. Based on that, I can call certain customers as generation X, Y, or Z. That will be called as univariate analysis. The techniques for those univariate analytics are what is so the techniques will be simply taking mean, median, mode, and percentiles, if you have heard of. So this is part of what is called as basic statistics. You will analyze mean, medians, percentiles, and you will also do some kind of distribution analysis. So if a lot of you are in analytics, we normally do, let's say, normal distribution or bell curve modeling when we actually grade students. Companies actually try to fit a bell curve when they actually appraise employees, and everybody is supposed to do. So normal distribution is nothing but a mathematical formula to model single one variable. That variable could be age, it could be income, it could be marks for a subject, and all of that. Okay, but real world is much more complex than just analysis on one variable. Okay? Real world means that we are interested in. Please mute the mic. Guys, please.
लगा सकते हैं म्यूजिक पे लेके जाओ.
Thank you. So what I was saying was, we are also interested not just in univariate summarization. So this is called as summarization of the data. Summarization of the data. So you'll quickly calculate, 90th percentile, 50th percentile, which will be the median, You'll compare it to average. You'll see the skewness of the data. That all is actually done here. And if you're not familiar with the statistics, please don't worry, but just keep this in mind. This is a high level overview we are trying to sense how the elephant of analytics looks like. But we are also interested in relationships. So if there is a Y variable, we are interested how this is impacted by X. So for example, I might say, how does my sales get impacted by price? I'm interested in that. How does my sales get impacted by age of people? I'm interested in that. How does my, let's say, GDP growth gets affected by, let's say, interest rate? So there is a relationship between Y and X. Now, let me come back to some other nomenclature. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so I told you that we define these tables. So now we are talking about Y variables and the relationship with X variables. It could be one variable or it could be two variables. So for example, I can forecast my sales as a function of price, or I can also forecast sales is just not a function of price. It would be a function of some other variables also. So sales as a function of two variables. Okay. Now let's give it a name. So we study these relationships through what is called as regression analysis. And regression analysis goes by several names: OLS, ordinary least square method. This is the term ordinary least method. Essentially, what we are trying to do is we are trying to fit in a line. Okay. So in univariate analysis, the question that we are asking is, what is that one number that represents a lot of numbers? So for example, we can ask, what is the average salary of people who are attending this particular class on analytics? That will be one number. Okay. And that is called as summarization. Now it is possible that one of us may be an outlier, either getting a very low salary or no salary at all, or somebody getting a very high salary. These will be outliers. We call them outliers. They should be either removed from an analysis or maybe they are a different group. One of the questions in analytics that we handle is, how do we treat outliers? Okay, a lot of people say delete the outliers. That's a very poor answer actually. Outliers should not be deleted. Outliers are an indication that there are two groups in the data, or maybe that the data recording process is actually not perfect. Okay? So we are talking about relationship between y and x variables. So we will estimate this one line, and then and it can be done in a very simple way. So my objective is not to teach you in this session regression, but I'll show you how easy it is. So let me say that I want to estimate sales as a function of price and promotion. I'll go to, in Excel, I'll go to data analysis. I'll click on regression, and I'm just doing it fast, guys, because the time is short. And then, I can run the regression. I can specify my y variable is sales, which I want to forecast is at a function of price and promotion. I've selected the label, so I've checked it here. Output range will come, and let me change where will the, so output, let's say, will appear here. And let's say I want to plot these. And this is my equation. So equation is right here, you see. So this tells me that sales is equal to 5,900. So 5,900 is this thing, minus 53 multiplied by price, which means that as price rise, my sales falls, which is the correct thing. And it is plus 3.53 into promotion. Now, if somebody gives me, so if my manager comes and asks me, can you predict my sales at this particular price? I have already got the equation. I'll plug it in this equation and I'll be able to predict the level of sales. This is a very simple method of forecasting. Of course, there are a lot of elements that you have to check here, but this is not a statistics class. But this is how a regression works. So a regression estimates a relationship between y, to take it again, relationship between y and a relationship between x variables. And remember that there could be multiple variables. If there is one variable x, we call it single variable regression. Otherwise, we call it multi-regression. Okay? Now, let's say this y and x. Let me write down here. Now, I want your attention a little bit on this class. This goes by several names again. So y variable sometimes is also called as response variable. And it is important for you to know because different people from different fields will use different types of language. Okay, this is also called as target variable, the variable that we want to forecast. This is also called as predictive variable to be predicted. Okay. And X is called as explanatory variable because it explains the variation of explanatory variable. It is also called as predictor variables. This is also called as, Y is also called as, by the way, dependent variable. And this is also called as independent variable. So do not get confused. These are the same. So whenever somebody says explanatory, predictor, or independent variables, he means give me the X variables. This is also called as regressor. This is also called as regressand. You might ask why so many names, because unfortunately, economists follow this regressand and regressor different people will use, but they are actually all the same. Marketing people use response variable quite a lot because they do a lot of campaigns, so they are analyzing the response, but they are all the same. So this is the overall relationship, and this is called as the regression. Now let me complicate. Life is much more complicated than this. Now this is true. Now let me take you through another complication. What happens if this x variable is actually not continuous variable? So there is continuous variable and there is discontinuous variable. Discontinuous means there is a better word for it. Let's call this category. Okay. So continuous variable are those variables which can take any value, any numerical value in a certain range. Categorical variables are in a category. So yes or no variables, gender variables, male or female. Okay. Let's say sometimes people, this is also a grouping variable. So people can divide into certain age classes. So, color of a certain thing. So red, blue or green or something like that. So these are all categorical variables. Within categorical variables, there is ordinal variables. Ordinal variables are those variables which have an order. So for example, in surveys, we ask people, how much did you like a particular movie? He may say, I liked it. I did not like it that much. I hated it. I extremely hated it. So there is a gradation, there is an order. So those are called as ordinary variables. Now it brings us to an interesting situation. If y variable is, let's say, continuous and x variable also is continuous, x is also continuous, the methodology that I have told you is basically regression. We use linear regression and we just ran the same in Excel. Okay. What happens if y is categorical? And there is a very interesting case in y is not only categorical, it's actually binary, which means it can take only two values. So let's say there is a corona patient and we want to say what is the likelihood given that he is exhibiting certain medicinal characteristics or physiological characteristics. What is his likelihood whether he will live or he will not live? Live means 1 and not live means 0. Whether a person who is a smoker, if he is a smoker, what is the likelihood of, let's not say smoker. So suppose, let's say you are of a certain income or age. The y variable in that particular case is whether you are likely to default or not. Default will be 1, not defaulting will be 0. So what happens if y is categorical and x is actually continuous? In this particular case, there is something called as logistic regression. If you ever wondered, if you have friends or daughters or son working in MNC IT company in analytics division, most likely I can tell you this is what they will be doing. This is the bread and butter of India. So most of these people, what they do is they run credit card companies, for example, want to know what is the likelihood that the person in NCR who has never defaulted or if of a certain age, of a certain gender in a certain region is likely to make a default in his loan payment. Now this thing is called as delinquency modeling. And it is handled by a logistic regression, which has a S-curved shape. Okay, it has a S-shaped curve. Okay, and in this particular thing, it is handled through logistic regression. The equation is actually simple. I'm not writing it. Now, there are other possibilities. What happens if this is categorical? Sorry, if this is categorical. I'm not able to write somehow. I don't know what has happened. I'm somehow not able to write. What happens if y is also categorical and x is also categorical? Let me drag this. Categorical and let's say not binary. Could be multi. I don't know, something has happened to my mouse. And this is also categorical. Okay. Sorry. There you go. Just hold on. I shifted. Yeah. And let's say this is also categorical. Not binary. Not binary. So it can have multiple categories. So I am not sure if courses you have done courses. This technique is called as ANOVA, analysis of variance. This is a multi-layered hypothesis. So one example of ANOVA will be: are people in Bombay spending the same average amount as in Delhi or as in, let's say, Hyderabad? Now, why is this important? If people have more spending power in Bombay versus Delhi, then it calls for a different sort of a marketing or campaign. Otherwise, it will be the same. So this analysis is called as analysis of variance. What it checks is the mean same across different groups? So, for example, one interesting analysis that could be done in ANOVA, it can also be done in simple hypothesis testing, whether females watch more Facebook than males. Okay, and we can collect the data, and we can see how much time, whether we can test statistically. Okay, and remember, I told you that statistical truths are not the absolute truth. So you can't take an example of one woman or compare simply average to average, because there is a distribution around that. Guys, just give me some time. I need to just sneeze a little. I'll be back. Thanks. Thank God I am not in a physical class. Otherwise, that would have sent me corona scared. All right. So then we will use the ANOVA is when this is continuous. Sorry, when X can be continuous, but Y, not just one. Sorry, Y is continuous and X is categorical. Sorry, it was my bad. Okay, so I told you one example would be whether the spending is different in Hyderabad versus Mumbai, but what you want to explain is sales. So example of ANOVA is sales as a function of Hyderabad or Bombay. You want to compare that. Sales as a function of Hyderabad or location, which is a categorical value. Sorry, my bad. Okay, where Y is actually categorical. And then there is a last thing, and this is also categorical, and this is also categorical. Then we use a distribution method. It's called as chi-square. Don't worry about if you don't understand any of these things. This is only a 90 minutes class. I'm just trying to give you an overview how the methodologies change. And all these are part of basic statistics. If you do a course, all these things will become very, very clear. And as I told you that a lot of people say analytics is actually difficult to learn. It's actually not very difficult to learn, because these days computing is very, very easy. So don't be afraid of it. Once you have got the basic insight, then all these can be computed and can be calculated pretty easily. It's not that rocket science. All right. Now let me come back to an interesting concept around, so these are the different methods. So let me just summarize. We have gone from univariate analysis, which means summarization, data summarization, to multiple variate analysis. And within that, we have seen all these different methods. But analytics world is far more richer than that. Now there are techniques like, so logistic regression, by the way, is also called as classifying technique. Classifying. Why is it called as classifying technique? Because we are dividing the customer into defaulting versus not defaulting customer. Okay? So there are now other techniques. So one of the interesting techniques is like decision tree. Now, what is a decision tree? Decision tree is also known as CART. CART. Classification and regression trees. So let me see if I can show you an example. One. So classification. So card is an example where you actually want to classify, let's say, different categories of people. Let's say somebody has defaulted on, let's take a very simple example. Let's say I have some images of lemons versus oranges. Okay. I want to prepare a computer algorithm which actually classifies between lemons and oranges. How am I going to do that? So because some lemons can look like oranges. Okay. So one is that you can look at the diameter. The other is the color. Okay. Based on these two parameters, I can classify. So what regression and classification please do is
என்னது அப்படியா நான் அப்பனா என் பசங்க கிட்ட சொல்றேன் அதுங்க
prepares a hierarchy of
பிரதீப்
question you will ask is it lemon or orange? And then you can classify that if just hold on a second. Just hold on. Okay, let me draw a diagram. Okay. So suppose, let's say you have lemons or oranges, some images. So you can say if the diameter is less than this thing, this is likely to be a lemon. Sorry, my
Yeah, it seems Mudit is not connected.
I think he is connected but
Yeah, maybe he is calling me. Let me see. Hello.
yes, ma'am.
Dr. Mudit has just called me as his power has gone. So his internet connection is gone. So he's saying that it will take little bit time. So for a generator to be on, then the system to be on. So he's asking me that is it possible to give more time? Otherwise, as per the schedule, he has only 2 minutes left. So it depends on the audience how they want to respond. Otherwise, we can close.
Audience, what would you like us to do? Participants, can you respond?
Ma'am, we can wait for 10 minutes.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Amit.
Tomorrow onwards. Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, somebody
music has started now.
Yeah. So it was a nice day and having a different sessions. And yeah.
Hello?
Are you back? Are you back with it?
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Are you back? Yes. We can hear
Shall I
you.
continue?
So you
How much
can-
time do we have?
Yeah.
Because I think I have.
Yeah, I think Mudit, you have to conclude within 10 minutes.
Acha, I'll conclude that. I think we started 5 minutes late also, by the way.
Yes, yes.
But anyway, I'll conclude in 5 minutes. All right.
No, yes.
So I
Okay.
was explaining you classification and regression trees, by the way. And let me share. My screen is visible?
Visible.
Just hold on.
You will have to share your screen, sir.
That's what I. Yeah, is it visible now?
Yes, yes, yes. Now it is
Yes.
visible.
Yeah.